Hello, my name is Daniel. I'm going to talk about the truth telling in Australia, not as an expert, but from personal position. Before studying this topic, I thought history was something in the past. But after learning about the truth telling, I realized how the past still affects the people today. This podcast is not blaming anyone. This is about the understanding why truth telling is important to contemporary Australia. First, I'm going to talk about the understanding of truth-telling. Truth-telling means the openly sharing the ongoing injustice of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. It was interesting to me that indigenous perspectives are strongly connected to country, culture, and long-term memory. Nowadays, many non-indigenous people like me learning the history of Aboriginal people through the school or media. However, that creates the gaps in understanding. So truth-telling needs to fix the gaps and create a shared foundation for reconciliation. Secondly, I'm going to talk about the barriers and enablers. I think truth-telling is not easy. One major barrier is fear. For example, fear of uncomfortable truth and the fear of responsibility. In addition, another barrier is misunderstanding. People don't understand exactly the long-term impact of colonization. Actually, I didn't know about that either. At the same time, there are enablers. I think education that is a plays the important roles. Storytelling and culturally safe spaces allow the people to share the experiences with respect. Their enabler make honest conversation possible. Sadly, I'm going to talk about the strategy for historical acceptance. I think that one of the important strategy is education. School and university are able to include indigenous perspective and work with Aboriginal community. I think that is the able to make completely history through the including indigenous voice and their perspectives. Another strategy is creating space for dialogue. I think the truth-telling ceremony and publicity discussion and even media program allow people to listen rather than argue. When people understand the past better, it becomes easier to move forward together for the future. The next is the voices from the field. This idea of truth-telling is not just personal. It's something being discussed publicly in Australia. Here's the short excerpt from the Q&A, where Indigenous artist Mitch Tambo speaks about the truth-telling.
We just get into schools. I feel like we have to educate the kids, and educate the teachers. I hear numerous stories from kids about the remarks from teachers in schools as well. So I think it's important that we educate teachers, we educate educators, and we get to the kids, because the reality is that's where we've got a greater scope to build capacity, build empathy, build a heart that's geared towards hearing our story, sitting with